Um, okay. What we in the morning sessions we talked about just the Penn State current general education curriculum, and we also talked about what I perceive to be the most important aspects of teaching, which should be integrated in any general education curriculum. So that means that whenever we think about general education curriculum, we should not only focus on knowledge and skills, but also on students' understanding of nature of knowledge, their attitudes, values, dispositions, and habits of mind. Now, what I would like now to do is, first of all, I would like to talk about what are the current models of general education used in US. Because right now, Penn State is actually, what we are doing is, this is what I want to discuss with you, is we are actually going through a reform process. What we want to do is actually, we are looking at all the general education programs throughout the country. And we are looking at many different models. And we are trying to, this summer, in fact, Penn State will be looking at 4 models. They are going to create prototypes based on 4 models of general education program, because there is a very strong movement in our university to improve the quality of general education. It's a very critical issue, and it's the same thing everywhere in the world. You know that students think of general education as really not important, and they focus mostly on their major, and it's not there. And what we are thinking is that, I think the basic reason is this. I will tell you honestly, the reason is this. In US, the tuition fee is very high. Now, even in Thailand, now I was very surprised, some university fee here is very high actually. Only in some university, like I was thinking with KMUTT, the tuition fee is not that high, but in some universities it's very high. Like I was looking at Assumption University, some MBA program, I looked at it, it's quite expensive. So the tuition fee as becomes more and more expensive, and Penn State is one of the more expensive universities in the country. I think right now the students there pay for 1 credit about $700, but international students pay about more than $1,200, which means one course, if you take, international students takes a 1 course at Penn State, if they pay say 3,000, it's almost like 100,000 baht for 1 course. So it's very expensive. And for the domestic, for the US student at Penn State still, the course is now around $700 for 1 credit. So it means a course is around still 70,000 baht. So it's about that much it costs for 1 course. And sometime I might teach a course for a month and I have 30 students. So you can see how much university makes money. I don't get all that money, by the way. So at the university, it's a lot of expense involved. So now, when you charge that much money from the students, there is more accountability. And now the parents, they will say, you know, if you have 1/3 of the courses which are not important, why you are taking them, all right? So if you have 105 credit hours, 120 credit hours, and 30 or 45 credits is general education. Now, take out 45 credit, they will say. Only give 60 some, because they are not meaningful to students. Why waste money on this? So there is a lot of pressure from the legislators and the people that why many of the courses have actually no value for students and why they are taking it. Now, so university have to make a good justification, to provide a justification that these courses are important. And in order to do that, they have to make those courses relevant. That means students and everybody should know they are important. They have to make them rigor. They have to have some rigor in that. That means when students are taking this course, it's not easy. They have to work hard, and they have to think about the same kind of standard for general education courses as it is for their major program. If the students don't perceive that, then we have a problem. So now university is trying to see what should we do. And it's a complicated issue. So that's what I'm going to talk to you about, is about different models of general education in US and then what are the issues in these models? Now, there are 4 general education models used in US for this general education. One is, we call it the cafeteria style birth model. Now this, I should put in quotes, this is really not the term used by everybody. So if you go and type the word cafeteria birth model, the only place you will find this information is probably at Penn State, because this is not a common terminology. But the idea is good. The idea is good about cafeteria style birth model. The cafeteria style birth model, as I was talking to you earlier, is that it's like cafeteria. The students have a cafeteria. They have different types of snacks. They have kanom one. They have many different things. They can go there and eat what they want to eat. Now they think about a course like that. So similarly at Penn State, we have many different courses, and they have many different requirements. Like I told you about skills, knowledge domain, and I talked to you about intercultural, and there are courses with those labels. So when students go into the handbook and they ask their colleagues, students, they say, oh, what about this course? This course will meet my intercultural requirement. The other student will say, okay, yeah, you can take this course. He says, is the teacher hard? We said, no, very easy to get A. So the students say, okay, I'll take this course. All right. So then the students talk to somebody else and say, is it fun? So they might think about other things, they might have, but they will probably they will not think about how this course is going to help them develop that outlook, which is in the tradition of liberal arts education, or which is in the tradition of general education. They will mostly think in terms of, is this course difficult? Is this course easy? Will it boost my GPA? Oh, my GPA is going down, 2.8. Can I get it by? Okay, you take these 2 courses, your GPA, definitely you'll get an A. And this is taught by a PhD student. He's very friendly, very easygoing, and you'll get an A. Don't worry about it. So this is how students make decisions. This is how they decide things. So now Penn State is very concerned that, and as the pressure from parents come, that 45 credits have no meaning for students. Why should they be asked to take? Why they pay so much money? So why not you bring the degree cost down? And remember, one of the biggest problems in US right now is the amount of money. You cannot believe how important it is. The amount of money college students pay to get their degrees. Many students take loans and they spend next 15 years paying the loan. I know many people, and you will be surprised, many people who are not much younger than me, and I'm quite old, and they just finished paying the loan. So it's a very big problem. It's because you are not mostly undergraduate, you're not supported, and you have to pay mostly from your pocket. And parents spend a lot of saving, and they have to spend a lot of investment in terms of provide the education. So there's a lot of pressure. Why some students should take a course which is not meaningful? Why they should pay for it? Why not they take the courses for their major and finish the degree? The point is, we believe that general education is important, is relevant, but they don't believe it is relevant, right? So another question is, how can we understand why they don't find it relevant? That means we have to deal with those third and fourth issue, which is their view of knowledge, their attitudes, their habits of mind, how they think about things, and so that it becomes more relevant. So now at Penn State, the model which we call is cafeteria style bread model, which is you want to buy carrot cake, you don't care whether carrot cake is good for your health, you buy it all the time because everybody loves carrot cake, and students choose courses. Some courses you will say cinema. Students will choose those courses, and those courses will be filled with 500 students. And then you have a course dealing with some other kind of things, you will have very few students in those courses. Now, cafeteria style model is what we have at Penn State, and this is one model used in some universities. And actually, in most universities in US use this model. They have a bulletin, they have a list of courses, students can choose, and they always tend to choose the easiest course or the course which may help them get good grades. The second model which is used in a few schools in US, like Brown University, Amherst University, and Evergreen College, this is called the open curriculum. Now, in open curriculum, students have unlimited authority to select courses outside their major. Students create their own curriculum. That's very interesting. They decide, they create their own curriculum, right? Now, then you have a fully prescribed curriculum model. It's almost extinct, and it's not really fully prescribed anymore. And maybe St. John classical curriculum in US, maybe they have something like that. The last one is called the core curriculum approach, whereas like in university like Columbia and Stanford, they used students in some common themes and in the first year, and then engage them in distributed themes after some time. So it's much more like core curriculum approach. Okay, so I think if you ask me in US university, cafeteria style, open, and core, these are the three common models. And the cafeteria style breadth model is most common. You know why it is the most common, cafeteria style? Can you think about it? Why cafeteria style is the most common model in US? I feel, I mean, there may be other reason. I feel this is very easy for university to manage because they ask each department, faculty, to create few courses that can be taken by students. All right, they don't need to create a separate budget. They give a little bit, and then you have science department, few courses that can be called general education. Math department, some courses, general education, can be counted toward general education. All departments have. Budgeting is not a problem. There is not a specific general education budget. No, a common for faculty, and then they have. So it's very easy to manage, no funding issues, no problem. So it's easy to go. But is it most relevant? Maybe not. And I think that's what we are coming to, is that this is the model which is cafeteria style is the most common model in most universities. Now, let's come to the open curriculum model. Now, the open curriculum model in US, which is used in higher education, in this general education, is for example, at Brown University. In this university, the students are encouraged to find their own GE curriculum, so that students, you know, they are given some general outlines that there are language, there is grammar, there is math, these are kind of things they talk to them about, but students make a decision about what they want to choose. They decide their curriculum. The interesting thing is, actually Brown University has some of the most impressive, very excellent undergraduate students. And some people wonder, is it because of their open curriculum? Students can choose whatever. Is that the reason that the students are excellent? But I don't think that is because of that. I think the students who join Brown University are maybe a little different characteristics than the student. And so it's probably not because of curriculum. It doesn't matter what curriculum it is. The students at Brown University will probably be doing very well anyway. So, but Brown's curriculum is very open, and they trust students to make their decisions. So, okay. Now, the second model, which core model. Now, the core model is its university, like Michigan State University. In Michigan State University, they have a program of integrated studies, a core program, which is basically introduce students about how knowledge is related in different areas. Now, There is also similar program at Columbia University, which is a core. They again have a core, and the core is about these areas: contemporary civilization, music, humanities, university writing, frontiers of science, literature, humanities, arts, and there is a core experience. They say it's much more about experience, so they focus on that core curriculum. Every student is supposed to take that. Now, so you have these two universities. Now, which one is better? It's a tricky issue. Actually, I'm not sure any of them is actually is anyway better, because there are both of them have problem. If you look at MSU's model, which is Michigan State University, they have core curriculum. The problem is they have created 3 centers at MSU. One is Arts and Letters Center, second is Natural Science, and third is Social Science. They have created these 3 centers, and they call them Integrate Studies Centers. They have these 3 centers, and their job is to provide the core curriculum for the general education. The problem is, in this university, Arts and Letters, they are okay in terms of integration within Arts and Letters, but between centers, between Arts and Letters and Natural Science, or between Natural Science and Social Science, there is very little integration still. So the problem is, even though they have integrated centers, their program is still not integrated. It still has a problem, because still Arts and Letters is not integrated with Natural Science and Natural Science. So this is one of the, so it is mostly integration within, not across centers and college, not between centers and college, only within the centers, only within the college. All right. So in a sense, the idea of general education is to provide integrated, holistic curriculum. It still is not integrated, holistic curriculum, even at MSU. Okay. And now at Penn State, it's the problem is the other way around. The problem is students learn about different courses from different faculty, but they don't know how to combine all those 5, 6 different perspectives. For example, learning about science, learning about environment, learning about social fields. How can we use all that knowledge to solve the real world problems? And the real world problems are not disciplinary, they are interdisciplinary problems. So they cannot apply this. So at Penn State, they have a very big problem that how different ways of thinking and seeing address the real world problems. But they have competency in single way of thinking, not in multiple ways of thinking. Now, so you have these two very interesting, and actually MSU, which is called Michigan State University, and Penn State, they are also part of the land grant, what is called land grant institutions in the US. And these universities are, pretty similar history, but they have 2 different models, but both of them, I think, do have problems. So what are the issues with Penn State general curriculum? Now, I want to go a little bit more about it. Now, in 2009, there was a strategic plan at Penn State that we should examine our goals, and we have to change our undergraduate curriculum. And as I discussed earlier, that one of the things which have come is more accountability and affordability. So money has become a big issue, that students should not be wasting money on getting the courses which they don't find meaningful. But we also want to, the same issue you're dealing with, we are talking about more about how to prepare students for international economy. And that's why they said with all these changes, we should try to focus on revising the curriculum. The general education system in Penn State right now is there for 15 years. The last review was in 1997. So now the recent review will take care of, hopefully, many things. Now, so one of the things people say that, now this is an interesting point. They say the general education program in Penn State is too broad and too narrow. That means they learn many things like cafeteria. But it's too broad, but too narrow. That means they don't learn anything well. There's no deep learning. You see, it's mostly surface learning. It's not deep learning. So there's no deep learning. So they learn about few things here, but not deep learning. And so too broad, too narrow. And they learn introduction to different domains, and there's nothing integrated. Now, the idea is, now this is a very interesting idea, I think, in recent report in Harvard University, they say that our job should not be to put students in different disciplines. Okay, you need general education course in science, go to the science department. You need general education course in math, go to the math department. You need general education course in arts, go to the arts department. That should not be our job. We should bring discipline to their lives so that it is more meaningful to them. So the idea is not to draw students, take students into different disciplines, to bring disciplines into their lives so that they can understand how these all disciplines can influence the kind of decisions they will make. So I think that's a very important point, is what we want to work on. So I think at Penn State, one of the things we are trying to focus on is 3 things now they have outlined. Now I want to tell you one thing. This thing is just the beginning. Because our reform has started, it's not the end. And I think I'm hoping that maybe after a year or so, more things happen at Penn State, and I learn more about what is happening there and learn more about what is happening here. We can have more dialogue and exchange. But right now, we are just working on this reform. One of the things they are now talking about in Penn State discussions is, when we finish revising our curriculum, it should have 3 things. It should be relevance. Make it relevant. And remember, I talk students don't feel it relevant. It should be, very important point, research, integrating the research endeavor into general education curriculum. This is the reason today I spent a lot of time last session on research. How research is important. That means research in the area of general education. Okay, general education. So Penn State now feels, because general education curriculum, if we want to emphasize, we must focus also on making sure that research access, scholarly activities are integrated. That means students are doing interdisciplinary kind of activities, and we are also researching how they are learning, what they are learning. So research becomes a very important, relevance and research. Now, the reason I say that research is important is, at Penn State, you offer general education curriculum, but we don't do research. Physics people do physics research, science people do science research, math people do math research, and they focus only about their content knowledge. We do not have any way that how our students developing those integrated skills and competencies and disposition and ethical decision-making behavior I was talking to you about their attitude. Are we doing that? There's nothing much being done. So people are thinking about how we can make sure that general education is not only about relevance, making general education relevant, but also research on general education and rigor. Rigor means that quality. Rigor means that the course should have some standard, right? Some quality. It should not be a course where students say, okay, I can take this and get an A. It should not be like that. It should have a rigor. So people are focusing on relevance, research, and rigor. 3 R's: relevance, research, and rigor. So 3 R's have become very important in Penn State's thinking, in their thinking about general education reform. So what they will do is, during this summer, they are going to work on 4 different models, and then they will analyze. Actually, right now, when I go back, I will be going back next week. After that, maybe this month, before the end of August and all, I'm hoping I will get some more information about some of these things. We have been working on analyzing different models, and they will analyze different models. If we choose this model of general education, how will it align with student learning? How will it impact student movement? Because you see, students are taking these programs from different departments. How will it impact student movement? How will these general education programs will impact faculty and departments? Now, just to give you an idea, what does that mean, impact faculty and department? There is right now the budget for different departments, science, math, physics, different budget. If you have an integrated program, how will you align, how will you deal with the budgeting? How will you deal with the faculty hiring? So there are all these kind of issues which are critical. Faculty, how will it impact different faculty and departments? And it will change the budgetary requirements. It will change the budgetary requirements. So they are looking at 4 different models right now and looking at, in each model, how does it impact student learning, student movement, faculty and department, and budgetary requirements. Okay. Okay. One thing which we are actually thinking is, which is very important. So we don't agree on everything, and I will discuss with you why we don't agree on everything, because there are curricular issues here. But one important thing is, one thing people agree is that students should take courses from variety of knowledge domains. They should take courses from many different knowledge domains. They agree on that. They agree that flexibility is critical. If you don't give students freedom, if you don't give them flexibility, then they may not, it doesn't promote discovery, because it doesn't promote self-directed inquiry. It doesn't promote. So they say flexibility is critical. And so the students, because Penn State actually is very big, we have many campuses. So we want to make sure that students from one campus to another campus, when they move, they have ability to take in other courses, the follow general courses. Just like I think I know about your program, you have SSWU, you have a campus in Nakhon Nayok, and you have here, and you want to make sure that what you do here is aligned with that. And Penn State also has many campuses, and we want to make sure that what is going on in Abington campus, in Lehigh Valley campus, these are all different campuses of Penn State, is aligned with the University Park campus, and there is flexibility. So we have to think about that also. Integrated learning should be, they are examining that. One very important issue, intercultural competency, which they feel, and along with the other identified learning outcomes of communication, literacy, critical and integrative thinking, social responsibility has become a very big issue, ethical thinking, and intellectual curiosity. These are all become major issues, major agreements. And the last one is, they say there was also agreement around the need for greater precision and clarity. So I think people feel that the word integration and global competency, what does it mean? So people want to make sure these ideas are clarified and explained. Just like I was saying, the idea of critical thinking. What is critical thinking? How do you measure it? Those are the issues people are thinking about. So these are the things people are talking about these days. So I think the idea is 4 models will be this summer, and fall, what we will do is during this fall, we will refine each model. Model 1, Model 2, Model 3, Model 4, and see which model may be good. And then what happens is, after we analyze 4 models, they will be presented to the Senate, and people will discuss and debate pros and cons of each model of general education curriculum. There will be debate and discuss. And through deliberation and discussion of each model, this model is good for this, this model is good for this, this model is good for this. And then they will deliberate each of those 4 models. After that, we will hopefully come to an understanding that which model may be the best thing for Penn State. Okay. Any questions on that? This is where we are right now at Penn State. We have not gone very far, but remember, we started this in 2000 and we have started in last 2-3 years, and this is where we are. It's because I think Penn State is very, it's not that we are very slow and lazy. It's just because there is a lot of stakeholders. We want to make sure that everybody is involved in the process. And I think I feel this is a good idea of looking at 4 different models and see each model is good for what. Is it good for learning outcome? Is it good in terms of managing for budget point of view? Is it good in terms of scholarly activity? So you look at benefits of each for the 4 models, and then you come to a better understanding, and you have a debate, discussion in the faculty senate, and then you come to an understanding which model may be the best example. So I think that's the way they are moving on it. So, and because they have all different implication, because I think you have to know how each model impacts faculty, department, staff, all those issues are critical. And I will talk to you a little bit more about something why that is important. Now, let me share with you one of the things right now, because as I said, we are going through the reform. What happened was Penn State did a study recently, and we looked at what people in our community think about this reform. What do they think about Penn State's issues? And I think when we look at what people post different comments and they discuss, they were interviewed, students, faculty, staff, I think there are 2 major things. One are the challenges of implementing general education reform. There are major challenges of implementing. And second is suggestions. So let me look at the challenges of implementing. I think one of the things people are talking about is like students feel that, some people have talking about themes. We should have a theme in general education. Like theme could be decision making. Okay, it could be a theme or evidence-based decision making. So you can have a course of evidence-based decision making course in humanities. You can have a decision making. You have a course which people, it will be a decision making course which students call it will be theme. So that theme will be integrated in all different fields. Decision making in science, decision making in engineering, decision making in management, decision making in other areas. In educational decision making, you can have a theme of decision making. The problem is that many students say that you normally choose a course. Now this is one student comment. He says you choose a course based on if it interests you, okay? And you have the freedom. If I choose a theme but I don't like the theme, and I want to take this course but it does not fit with the theme, then what do? I lose the freedom. So students don't like the idea sometimes of theme-based program because they lose freedom to choose the course they think would be interesting and useful to them. So sometimes it doesn't give them flexibility. Now, like this student says, what if student really wanted to take 2 courses in 2 different subjects of interest, but these courses were not grouped under the same theme? So students are, because we are getting now feedback from students, we are getting feedback from faculty, from staff. What do you think? And the students do not feel that is maybe a good way. Now you look at the faculty. Staff member thinks that we should not focus on theme. We should focus on competency. Right? So they say that students need some skills, some competency, and they don't need to get into theme. It will be very confusing. They all need to know something. So many times people talk like that. Okay. And faculty says that some faculty think themes is a great idea. For example, creativity. Actually, at Penn State, we have an online course on creativity right now. Many faculty think it's a good idea of creativity. So they feel creativity could be a nice theme. Some faculty feel that way. So people are having different views on it. Some students feel that they like the idea of exploration very much. But some students think, no, exploration should be 50% and 50% skills. So people have different ideas about it. Okay. Sometimes faculty feel that, what they feel that, the whole idea of general education, some faculty feel that at the college level, we should not focus too much about general education. We should just give them basic knowledge about different areas. After they finish college, then they can move on to, and then they can do whatever they want to do. So people do not agree on all these issues. And you can see here also, now some students feel, how is the general education relevant and meaningful? Now this is the big issue, as I said. And I will say this issue is not only in Thailand, this issue in US, this issue is relevant to Thailand also. The biggest issue is students do not find general education. Now for this student says, he says, while general education classes are good to take and will teach you more things, how much do they really matter in long scheme of things? Will a future employer really be impressed that I took elementary astronomy as a college freshman? See, so if a student is going to be something else, he says, who cares if I have taken astronomy? How is it related to what I want to be? I want to work in, for example, in a vocational school or something. I want to work. What astronomy has to do with me, right? I'm never going to be teaching science. Okay, I'm going to be administrator in a small company. I'm going to be manager. Why I should, if I'm in a business school, why I should take astronomy? How is it related to me? What does it do to me? So this is a very, very important issue, I feel, meaningfulness. Now let me show you, actually there's a study in SWU done by, Dr. Thanita did this study, and this is about students' perception of general education program. And this was done in SWU, actually, in this university. So isn't it funny that I'm talking about research in SWU? And in this study, I think the idea was to ask undergraduate students how about their perception of learning environment in their major and general education classrooms. I think there were 870 first-year undergraduate students. I'm not sure. I think probably from Nakhon, not sure. Okay, from Nakhon, and they were in different programs: engineering, fine arts, education, economics, and nursing. And these were the students. And you see here is an interesting thing. The students were, for example, asked. Now it's very similar to what is happening in US. They ask which subjects are more meaningful. And if you look at it, engineering students is your major. This is the major. The blue is major and yellow is general education. So if you ask the engineering student, they, first of all students doesn't matter if they are in engineering, fine arts, education, economics, it should be nursing. If you ask them, there's a typo there. So if you ask them in any field, all of them, and this is not Konayo, all of them feel their major is more meaningful for them than their general education, and it doesn't matter which subject they are. Now it's interesting. I actually thought education students will find that their minor will be very interesting because they will see more connection between this, but that's not true. And what is interesting is if you look at fine arts, they find their general education much less meaningful. Look at it. 40% think that is meaningful, and only almost 5-6%. So they feel is it. So you'd see a big gap in terms of meaningfulness. Now that's what is the same thing being said by our student in US. Why should I study this course? All right, when I'm not going to be an astronomer. I think this is what these students are saying. If you're a fine arts student, you're saying why I should be studying general education, how is related to what I'm doing. Yes.
What year of student do you collect?
Oh yes, good question.
First year or final year?
First year.
First year.
That's shocking. I mean, if that's even worse. You see what I mean? That's even worse. I think that's a very good question, Ajahn Nasser. If you have fifth-year students saying that, I understand because they are going to join the industry, and that time they are focused too much into what they want to be. But it is just the beginning. They just have started. And when they have started, I think that they have not really learned so much about their major. So they have a much broader mindset right now. But even at that stage, when they have been just admitted to the program, they have not experienced general education. They have an idea of general education, but they have not studied. So I'm not sure it has to do with the teaching in general education classrooms or teaching in major. I don't think it is to do. It can happen if it has to do with teaching. After 3-4 years, you become bored with general education and then you do. But that's not true. These students have just started. And they already know what is not meaningful. So the question is, students do not see a connection between general education and what they do in their major. So the question is, the gap is so wide that it is shocking. And I trust, and this is exactly same, I'm pretty sure, if you do the same study in my university, the results will be identical, sure. And I think that's the way. And I think there are other dimensions of this study, but I just put it this meaningfulness now, meaningfulness only. Now, why is this? Why is this? And now, so when people talk about general education, I personally feel there are 5 areas of tension in general education. I think now what I'm going to talk to you is much more looking at general education issues from a curricular person, from a curriculum perspective, just like I was talking about it from research perspective. Now, I think one thing is that people, when they think about general education curriculum, first of all, they have different perspective, curricular perspective, very important. Now this is critical to understand. One of the problem is, if you talk to some people about general education curriculum, one says themes, second says integration, one says competency, second says skills, third say exploration, fourth says something else. And they're fighting, they're talking, and they're fighting with each other. The question is, we should try to understand what is the reason for disagreement so that we can have a better dialogue, why people are arguing, what they are arguing about, all right? So I think as a curriculum person, I feel that one of the problem in general education curriculum is we do not understand the nature of curriculum. We do not understand what general education should be, could be about, and why we disagree. What is the reason for our disagreement so that we can have a dialogue, we can have a conversation? Because I'm sure everybody wants to benefit the children, wants to benefit the students, but I think there is a basic problem in, I think five tensions which cause problem in general education reform, five tensions. The first tension, I think, is caused by our perspective, curriculum perspective. And what I mean to say is curriculum perspective is that some people, when they think about curriculum, they think about subject matter, physics, math, chemistry. They don't think anything else. They only think about subject matter. Some people, and these are mostly people who are trained as physicists, chemists, biology, and we all think about from our subject because that's what we are trained in. That's one thing. Second thing is some people who are more psychological orientation, they think about attitude, goals, values, they think about more like that. So different people have different curricular perspective, and sometimes our perspective, because they are different, that causes the tension in the kind of program. And I will talk to you why that causes the tension. But first thing is curricular perspective. The second thing which causes the tension, and that's where we do not have success in general education reform and design of general education, is about knowledge. Sometimes we want to integrate the knowledge, but we also want to show different disciplines. For example, we think about science and math should be integrated. Science and art should be integrated. Think about a problem like pollution. Pollution problem is not a problem which is a scientific problem, it's a social problem. It requires different kind of perspectives to deal with the problem. But because we are thinking mostly about our discipline, we mostly think about have a problem. Sometimes we end up with fragmentation, science, math, physics, or we go into integration. When you go too much into integration, you do not understand the nature of each discipline. I think that understanding the unique nature of science is also important, right? But understanding that how science and arts and social issues can be combined together to deal with the problem of pollution is also important. See? So the problem is integration and fragmentation can also create problem. If you integrate too much, students don't understand the nature of each discipline. If you don't integrate, they don't know how to combine the knowledge to solve the problem at hand. All right. So we'll talk about that. Second issue is nature of knowledge. The third issue is nature of learning, tension again. Should you teach more or should you teach less? I deal with this tension every day. I walk into the classroom. I will tell you frankly, I walk into the classroom and like say I'm here for a few days and I'm working with some PhD students. I don't know what I should teach, how much I should teach. And I have a problem. Then I say, you know what? I am not teaching you any content. I just want you to feel how I think as a researcher, how I think about problems, how I think about issues. Once you understand how I think about an issue, how I feel about an issue, you will see, maybe you will think, do you want to live like me, right? Do you want to think things like that, examine questions like that? Because I say, if you become a researcher, your life will be totally changed. Everything you think about, you will think it a little bit differently than how you think about it now. So the question always is that we tend to always think about, oh, we should teach more, we should teach more. Should we teach more or should we teach deep? I think that's always a challenge. And I think all teachers deal with these questions. And many times you go deeply into topics, oh my God, I have not covered much, so I better get back to because I have to finish this. So I think that's an issue, always. The nature of learning, very big issue. The third thing tension comes is generalist versus specialist. Is a very big tension. I will tell you frankly, in my university, even though I am in science, my background was in physics, and then I now they call me a science educator or physics educator, but no, look at it. I'm doing research on English language learning. They start thinking, what the heck are you doing with English language learning? Why you're interested in things like English language learning? I say, well, it interests me. So the tension is this: even though English language learning, English medium, or think about critical thinking disposition, some of those issues which I'm interested in, or religion or other issues, they say, okay, I understand environmental science, but why these things? Why cheating? Why you're interested in students cheating? Why not something related to science education? The problem is universities are very specialized. They want people to be specialists and expert on one thing. They don't want, especially the top research institution in US, don't want generalists. But now they have general education. So there is a tension between general education program and specialist. So when you hire somebody tomorrow, should you hire a guy who has a lot of different areas like me, or should you hire somebody who says, my area of focus is problem-based learning in science classroom? Is very different, because that person is only focused on that particular area. Now, I will be in that sense considered a generalist. The university does not know, because they are specialized fields, everything is specialized, if they have a general education program in Faculty of Science, how will they evaluate general education courses and students and teaching? Will they value general education teaching the same way they will value the teaching of a major, all right? All those issues. Who should they hire? Should they hire a person who is specialist in the field but does not have understanding of integrated nature of knowledge or general education tradition? Then who should they hire? Universities like Penn State tend to hire specialized people, but now we are thinking, maybe that's wrong. Maybe we should try to regard and respect general education, because this is 1/3 of students' curriculum in undergraduate education, and they pay a lot of money for it. I think that's what is happening now at Penn State. So even for a university which is strongly research oriented, we have now learned we must provide high quality undergraduate education because students pay for it. Otherwise, we will lose them, right? So I think that's why this is a very important, and we cannot improve the quality of general education without valuing the expertise of general education people in different faculties. I think that's what they are learning now. Many times in my university, the students, the people who teach general education courses many times, as I said, are students, PhD students. Faculty don't get involved many times in it. But I think that will change, sure, that will change, has to change, right? Because students pay money and they deserve much better, I feel, for what they pay. Okay, the last one is the tension. So there's a tension, generalist, specialist. The last tension is local versus global. Should you focus more on local issues or should you focus more on global issues? I think there is always that tension in general education curriculum. So I think the general education curriculum, curricular perspective, nature of knowledge, nature of learning, expertise of the faculty in general education program, and focus of general education program should be more local or more global. And I think that's become, that's always an issue. And I think Penn State was completely local, maybe about 10 years back. I think it's become a little bit more, maybe more global than it was some time back. Okay. Okay. Now this is very interesting. Just, I was just thinking about it. When students start, think about this is the issue of knowledge integration. When children are very small in elementary school, prathom, elementary schools they are in. And they are from start grade, very little children. We don't teach them physics, chemistry, biology. They learn trees, plants, they learn these things. So everything is interconnected. So what you have is, there is all different content, physics, chemistry, biology, everything is integrated, and you have maybe themes, water, plants, tree, you have themes. Now they go to middle school and high school. They start learning different content, A, B, C, D, and maybe a little bit related. Then they become in school, when they come to the school, they become disciplinary, physics. For example, if you have what is that called? Mo Si Ha Hok, right? And this is 4th, 5th, 6th, right? In that. And when they reach there, they get streamed in Thai high schools into science, math, or language arts streams. They get streamed. It's a different system than in US, but they get streamed. But it doesn't matter which system, which track is that. Students, when they reach secondary school, they learn then physics, chemistry, biology, different subjects. Now what is interesting is, they start from kindergarten and they go to school, we make them move from interdisciplinary to separate, fragmentation. And now what we are doing in college is trying to go back where we started, right? So it seems to me we are doing the things, we are learning and unlearning things, kind of things. We start from here with thematic perspective. And now in my university, people are saying, can we have themes again? I think that's what we are doing. So maybe the themes are different, but it's the same idea that once the knowledge becomes abstract, specialized, it's very difficult to go back. If you study the history of science, once the knowledge becomes very specialized and abstract, it's very difficult to go back to kitchen science, which was much more, everyday man science. So I think that's what is happening. So now we have a difficulty going back. So this is an issue of integration and fragmentation, which is first tension in the curriculum. First tension, nature of knowledge. The curricular perspective tension. The second tension is, I think the best way to understand the second tension is, some of you may be knowing this Joseph Schwab's work. He's a major curriculum theorist in US and maybe one of the best theorists in last century. His work on, I think this talks about his work on curriculum perspective. Now, if you care about local context, then maybe your perspective may be more what is called critical theory perspective. You care more about milieu and teacher. Now, Schwab talked about four things which are important. One is teacher, milieu, learner, and subject matter. If you focus too much on teacher and milieu and the local context, it may be more consistent with what is called critical theory perspective on curriculum. Today, when I talk about attitude, goals, disposition, I'm using more what is called cognitive perspective. And there are different theories of cognitive. This is more cognitive perspective. And cognitive perspective focus on learner. Behavioral perspective also focus on the learner. So the point is, some people are focusing on student behaviors, what students are doing. Other people are focusing on student thinking. So which one is more important? Anai samkhan magwa, behavior or thinking. All right. Now, if you think about Buddha's message, I think maybe thinking is more important, because his idea is that, thinking shapes who you become. So thinking, cognitive perspective or behaviors, behavior perspective. Another perspective is traditional perspective. So many people at Penn State, when they're fighting with each other, they're saying, competency they should have. They are looking more from a traditional perspective, and their focus is, in this subject matter, what skills and competency all students should have. another perspective is disciplinary. What you have is math people thinking mathematics is very important, physics people saying physics is important, chemistry people saying science, but many people, different people from different disciplines are talking. So the point is, different people are looking at the same curriculum, GE curriculum, and they're saying this is more important. If you go very close to the learner, you can start forgetting about the subject matter. If you go too close to subject matter, you don't think about the learner. You don't think about learner's goals, intention, values, attitude. The point is, there is always this tension in the curriculum, GE curriculum, caused by, because when we go into one, we forget the other. So many times people don't think about the teacher, they don't think about the thinking. So I think the idea is we should not lose sight that all the four are important aspects of curriculum. All the four are important aspects of the curriculum. Yes, skill, discipline is important, but learners is also important. Their thinking is also important. Their behaviors are important. And that's what we talked about today. When I started talking about 4 different aspects of teaching, I was talking about student behavior, student thinking, and why they're important. Okay. So, curriculum. So, second tension comes because of this curriculum. Okay. Okay. I think third tension I feel comes from the concept of curriculum. The concept of curriculum, I mean to say, is this, that many times, as I said earlier today, many times when people think about curriculum, they think about it's a piece of paper. Like you create a program, there's a handbook people can use, and then you have done it. Actually, curriculum is not about piece of paper. Curriculum is about 3 different things. One is where you want to go, end. That's the end. How you want to go there means. But that's not total curriculum. Curriculum is also about what happens in the classroom. That means the classroom learning environment. So one of the problem people, when they debate about this general education curriculum, they are only thinking about the end or the means. They are not thinking about events, what actually happened, how are students' experiences. So general education curriculum reform should not be only about, that's the point, and that's the point. It should not be only about ends. Yes, you should know the end, where you want to go, your destination, ends. It should also be about means. Yes, means are important, how you reach there where you want to go. But you also need to know about the actual events, that means the classroom learning environment and students' experiences in the classroom, how they are experiencing it. So it should be about all the 3 things, means, ends, and events. So I think that curriculum, actual GE curriculum, should be all about means, ends, and events. I think this is where people sometimes think about it. Should think about it, curriculum. So I think tensions arise, in my view, from these tensions which I talked to you arise from these factors which I have discussed. Curriculum perspective, nature of knowledge, nature of learning, and the curricular focus and expertise of the faculty, and the definition of curriculum. Okay. Okay. Should we take a break? Okay, all right. Okay. So I think I will take maybe 4 or 5 minutes only. So at Penn State, what are the suggestions people make? I think one of the suggestions people make is just a moment, okay. Yeah. So in order to deal with these problems, these tensions, one of the things Penn State, this is very interesting, is they're finding that nor faculty nor students, they have no idea. Many faculty and students, they do not have any idea about knowledge and skill domains. They don't know even, many people, they teach their courses, they don't know what is the outcome, why those courses were there to begin with, right? They're just teaching it. And they also, so they don't know the learning goals. That's one issue. Second issue is, now this is very important issue. Many students who are in the major, like in physics, they take courses which they need called foundational courses. Remember, I call foundational courses for physics, or foundational courses for math, or foundational courses for chemistry. The point is, foundational courses for physics, math, chemistry, biology are not the same as courses, general education courses in their discipline. Because the idea of general education courses in their discipline is that they will learn something of that discipline which will create a holistic person. But even teachers don't know the difference between foundational courses and general education courses. Foundation courses are the first course a major takes who graduate in physics, first course. But general education course is the course every student take, even if they don't major, so that they can have. Now, many of the teachers themselves don't know the difference between foundational courses and general education courses. So I think this is a very big confusion we have. As I said, because of the problem of specialization, tension of generalist versus a specialist, many at Penn State, they have many faculty members who are, many students who are teaching these courses. Now, here is that, it says, only about 10% of large enrollment courses are taught by standing faculty members. 10% only. 90% are taught by either part-time or they are taught by students and these courses. Because general education is really not specialist work. So many faculty in each department look down upon general education. Why should we bother about it? So it's like being a second-class citizen, like, you know, within the each department. So now next one. Now I talked to you about this earlier. They say that. Now this is interesting. They found that general education in classes in Penn State, 70% of students get A or B. But in major, only 40% get A or B. You see what is happening? The students know if they want to increase their GPA, okay, take another one and try to find out which one will help me. All right, get there. So basically the idea is that it's really failing, actually, the way the system was designed. It's really not in the spirit of liberal arts tradition. Okay, no. So Penn's general education curriculum fails to deliver on the promise of coherent. I think John's question is general education compulsory? Yes, general education is part of the curriculum. They have to take it. But it's the difference between different universities, how general education curriculum is they can take. So like I said, they have a requirement. They have to take 45 credits in general education. They have to. So those are the list of courses at Penn State. It's compulsory. They have to. The problem is they have the general education curriculum. The problem is how do you make it relevant? That's a separate issue. But it is compulsory. They have it. But the way it is compulsory depends, like I said, different models. Some, like Penn State, has cafeteria model. They can pick and choose from different departments, courses listed as general education courses. In some university, they have, like in Michigan State University, they have 3 different centers who are doing integrated courses, general education courses for students. Now, so in other universities, they just give them open curriculum, give them some guidelines and say you can choose anything you want to choose. So the question is, which one is better? We don't know. And that's what Penn State is doing right now, is they're trying to look at maybe 4 different models and trying to see which models will fit well, because it has implication, as I said, for many, many things: budgetary, departmental issues, learning outcomes, so many issues it has. So then they will decide finally, which model will be appropriate. But they all need to do general education. But the only difference is when we come here, we see a general education department and responsible for general education curriculum. At Penn State, that was not really that. There is not a separate unit. And each department creates a list. Now, right now, what is happening there is that some departments are saying we should include more of their courses in general education because they have become more important. So everybody is lobbying for their department, because if their courses become part of the general education for a particular department, that department will get more budget, so implication hiring. So they try to push their own curriculum. And remember, I talk about curriculum perspective. Each discipline thinks about the world from their own perspective. And I think that's part of the issue there.
So, any more questions? You can ask a question about the morning session also. We can use this time to share idea.
Other questions? Yes.
I'm not sure that in the USA, most professors in the university think that general education are important or not.
Yes.
Because in our country, not only students, but most professors in the university don't understand about general education.
Yes. I think you're absolutely right. I think the situation may not be that different. The people who understand the idea of general education, not all, it depends on individuals. You may see some people in the science department and math department who may feel the idea of general education is so important. There are people like that. In fact, there are a couple of people who are in the general education task force, and they feel that when they were undergraduate students, they studied some things which they would have never studied if they had not taken general education curriculum. And that totally changed their life. So there are people, that was not their major, but it totally changed their life. For example, if as a part of general education curriculum, you take some courses which you may not use towards major, but later on in your life, it may shape your thinking towards the world. Then they always remember that it was because they took that general education course. So there are many people in different departments, in science, math, physics, and all different departments, who feel that general education curriculum is very important part of who they were, and they got good education because of that. But there are people who look at the world. Now, here's the thing. When a person thinks that general education changed their life, they mostly think about themselves, their self, what made them meaningful in life. They don't think about physics or math. They think about what gave them meaning in life. So they are thinking about the learner. They are thinking about how it changed their life. But there are also people who are in specific department. They feel, why should we waste time on general education? So I think it is because it is shaped by your ideology, your belief. And like I said, if general education curriculum is compatible with your belief, then it will be useful to you. If it is incompatible, it will not be much useful. So I think a lot of times when students come to the classroom, there has to be fit between what they believe and what they are learning. If what they are learning, it does not fit with what they believe, is inconsistent, it's not compatible, then there is no meaningful learning, right? So I think that is the challenge. The challenge is, what do we do? What kind of learning environment we create? And what do we do in our curriculum? Not only in terms of the ends and the means, but also in terms of the actual classroom events which takes place. What do we do so that students see value and meaning in journal education? I think that's the challenge. That's a difficult challenge. And I think, interestingly, in my personal view is interdisciplinary thinking, integration across discipline is more difficult. And disciplinary thinking is much easier. To link ideas from different disciplines is more difficult. Like, for example, if I know how evidence is used in physics, it's easy to understand. In science, it's easy to understand. But to understand how evidence is used in science, arts, religion, in law, how they use evidence, to understand and think about it, how evidence play roles in different disciplines, is more deep learning and more complicated and difficult to teach also, and difficult to understand and learn. So I think it is the challenge of creating a meaningful curriculum. That's the challenge. How do you keep? And that's why I think that Penn State is, and I also feel, personally, the most important thing is, in my view, is, which helps, is that universities, Penn State has to take general education seriously. It's not only talking about it, to take it seriously. Taking it seriously, I think earlier Ajahn was asking me about assessment. I think, saying assessment. I will show you later on. In Penn State, all the courses we teach are assessed. So we have, every course I teach at Penn State, doesn't matter I'm assistant, associate or full professor, every course I teach, the students evaluate my teaching. Every course they evaluate. They give me what they liked, what they did not like. I do think that in that evaluation, if it is a general education course, maybe there will be specific evaluation for the general education courses, built-in evaluation. So students will see that how this course really benefited them in terms of objectives of general education and the aim of the course. And I think faculty should be rewarded for that. And there should be, and also it should not be considered second-class citizenship if you are teaching general education. Faculty who are professors may enjoy to teach a general education class because it is more rewarding to connect ideas, to use their expertise. So I think they should value both, it should be valued at all levels. When students give you good evaluation or general education, a different evaluation, it should be regarded. Every year when I teach a class, I think let me explain you. What happens at Penn State is, there are 3 types of evaluation. There are deeper issues here, Ajahn, your question. There are 3 types of evaluation for faculty at Penn State. One is called service. Service means how many committees I attended, how many people I helped. That is service, generally. Profession. Profession means I am in some journals and I do service for that profession. Like, for example, Electronic Journal of Science Education, I'm actually a reviewer for the journal in the editorial board and some other journals. So that is called service. I do the service. And there are other ways of doing service. Fulbright is also called service at Penn State. Being in the faculty senate, I'm in the senate, many committee, planning committees, those are service. Second thing in which every year all faculty, does not matter, assistant professor, associate professor, full professor are evaluated is teaching. Every course I have taught at Penn State, there is an evaluation of my course. What grade student gave me, because I give them grade, they give me grade. So it is back and forth. They tell me, chopper I crop, what did they like? What did they not like? Did they learn something in this course? What did they learn? How it benefited them? So maybe they will build some evaluation there in the general education courses, which will help us better understand where the students are finding it the way it should be meaningful. The third evaluation is research. Every year, how many articles I publish in research journals, what contribution I do. And one of the major things at Penn State is publication in, I mean, these issues are there in journals with impact factors, and that's very critical. So research, teaching, and evaluation. Now the question is, research on issues pertaining to general education should be respected and regarded. Teaching in courses with general education and how it benefited the students should also be regarded. Funding should be there. There should be, so all those issues are important issues, and I'll talk a little bit about it later also. If you don't do that, then it's only talking that general education is important. It has no meaning. So I think Penn State is learning that. It's the hard way. They're learning that it's time to pay more attention. So we'll see. But it's the same even at Penn State that normally disciplines becomes more important and specialization become more important. Majors become more important, and general education normally is a little bit undermined sometimes. But there are many people in US in faculty who strongly believe in the tradition of liberal arts. They strongly believe that students should be, general education courses should have more rigor. So.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions? Okay.
Sure.
Okay, you mentioned that in the USA, each department has their own GE curriculum, right?
They have general education curriculum, but it depends on, like I showed you, 3 models, 3 models. In my universities, and most universities have like that.
Yes. And is there any difference between the GE curriculum in each department?
Oh, I see. Well, that's why I think.
And also one more.
Yeah.
And if it is different, is there like you tailor-made for the student, or you have like a one-size-fits-all?
Okay. I think what happened is, let me explain it like this. Let's say you have a science department. Now, in general education, there are some courses which we feel are science courses, which gives maybe more from general education, more interdisciplinary kind of perspective on science. So it is a science course, but it's a little bit foundational, but it's not foundation for the major, but it is a general physics course. That will be designed by science department, Faculty of Science. Okay. Now you have another general education course about writing and writing skills. That will come under the department, a different department. Okay. So different faculty, what you call faculty here, will be responsible because they have some courses. So they will have all the courses. Each faculty has listings of all the courses. And on some courses which are journal, they will put the label GEN, or they will say something. And that course will have specific label. That's what I was showing in the beginning, that they will have, if it is a writing course, it will have GWS, writing and speaking course, which means this course is a general education course. So G stand is a general education. WS means that it will count towards writing and speaking competency. See how that is speaking skills. Then they will have journal GH something. It means this course is basically a general education course, but for students in the area of health. All right. Then you will have GN. That means it is a general education course, but dealing with natural science. That means it may be beginning level kind of course in science, physics, chemistry, astronomy, math, something like that. So they get an idea of that. So they are all determined by different faculties, but they are part of general education curriculum. And the problem is, this is what I'm saying is, this is like a cafeteria model because students pick and choose. And they choose the one they feel, but they do have to take certain amount of courses in each competency, in each knowledge domain, in each skills, right? I think this is a very difficult issue, but there are a lot of things which shape. That's what I was talking about. That this is like adoption of general education reform. It will be shaped by many variables. At Penn State, one thing which is definitely happening is, what is driving, as I said earlier, is students, there is a lot of accountability now. They say we are paying so much money. Why should we pay 130 credits when we can finish bachelor degree with 60 credit and we don't need to take general education? Now university is forced to justify why general education is important. Or the university have other option. Instead of requiring 120, have no general education, but that's not possible. So university feel now compelled. University feels compelled to try to do their best to make this general education curriculum more and more meaningful. Now, this cannot be done just by giving a curriculum. It means university has to invest and spend money on general education. They have to take general education seriously. That's the bottom line. They must take it seriously. That means faculty who are invested in general education, they must be respected, regarded, and there is attention. And courses, faculty who like to teach like that, who want to be engaged in general education, teaching and research, must be regarded. There should be budgetary, there should be allocation of funds. Because if you have about 45 credits out of 120 credits and no money being pumped into general education program, then there is a problem. So university is taking it now seriously. In some ways you are a little bit ahead of us because you already have a general education program. But I think these things are shaped by, in my view, one of the best ways to support the adoption of innovation, of curricular innovation, is social persuasion, which means people in different departments who understand how general education can benefit major and how they are linked together. I think if you have people in each department who are able to appreciate and recognize the importance of general education, then they can persuade their own colleagues who are in each department. For example, if I am in a physics department or math department, I see relevance of general education curriculum to math education, to math learning. I will be able to have some say. So if there are a couple of people in my department who think the same, so you need a critical mass of people in different departments who are advocates for the idea of general education, who are advocates of the idea of liberal education, who believe in liberal education, who believe that students in all departments need, all students, doesn't matter, need to be good in ethical decision making. They should be good in social responsibility, civic, other things. Then what will happen is you will have people, we all will have people in different departments who are advocates of general education. So I think one of the things at Penn State is happening is in different departments, we are having people who are trying to lobby, push for more general education and more rigorous general education because they believe in the quality of education. And I think people need to also understand that when students do not learn general education very well, they do not learn major very well because they are all interconnected. Good thinkers are good thinkers. It has nothing to do with physics, math, or chemistry. right? So there are certain attributes. So people who rely on evidence, who reason well, who understand what reasoning is, it's nothing to do with math, physics, chemistry. So if people in different departments understand the importance and are advocates of general education, then general education will survive. I think that's the betterment. So I think persuasion is the major thing. Persuasion. People need to be persuaded in the value of general education. I think, and the value of liberal education. And many people in US feel that way, but some people still don't feel that way, which is always the case, right? So I think the point is, how can we have more people on the right side? That's the challenge, I think, in innovation. How can we have critical mass of people who can support innovation and reform? That's what we need. So I think that's the challenge. I think at Penn State they're realizing right now, but we will see what happens. So.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Yeah, I think we are. Oh, okay.
This is a very basic question. Could you elaborate about the linkage between the 21st century skills with general education?
Okay. I think 21st century skills, in that model, I was showing you, hold on 1 minute. Okay. All right. You see, when I was thinking about 21st century skills, I think I was thinking some of the skills we are talking about here, for example, idea of intercultural competency. This is related to 21st century. I mean, it's very important. We live in a globalized world. We need to learn how to deal with people who may not share our values, beliefs. We need to have, so the idea of, some people would say that English medium, English language learning is kind of, now we need more because we're in a global economy. We need more English writing, reading and writing, and able to understand. So knowing more than one language, I think, is critical. I also feel critical thinking disposition, critical thinking skills, which we are talking about, ethical decision making, sustainability issues. Students should learn civic engagement, social responsibility. These are all important. Civic engagement, very important. So I did not go into all of them because I did not do research on. I actually have one paper we are working on social responsibility. But I chose some of these themes because I wanted to share with you the ideas related to 21st century ideas and how research we have done relates to that. So I think these things are important. Now, for example, if you think about intercultural competency, what is the most important about intercultural competency? I think one of the important things is pluralistic thinking, understanding multiple points of view, okay, diversity, okay, empathy. They are very important. And I was talking to you earlier about the work with Dr. Chanad and I have done in the area of critical thinking disposition. Those are very important 21st century attitudes and habits of mind with students, how critical thinking disposition students should have. And that's why I brought up this. So many of the things I'm doing, but I don't want to say that everything students need in 21st century skill I'm covering, I'm not. But I'm only focusing on the areas which we have done some research on. So.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions? Okay. Now I think we are facing the same problem in US and in Thailand also. So now the last session we will learn more about dimension of the high quality in general education. And I think now we have maybe about 25 minutes for the last question. Sorry for the last
session.
question.
Okay. Okay. So I think what I want to share with you is, if you think about it, what are the major things I think when I think about journal education? What are the major things, just to put it together? I think one of the things I think about is faculty. Faculty is very important. Now you have to make a decision. Do you want specialists, or you want also people who are interested in the idea of general education? I think all universities should regard and value general education and regard teach faculty who are interested in the idea of general education. Doesn't matter which faculty they are in. Student characteristics, very important. Learning environment, curricular and educational experiences of the students in general education, faculty and program administration, and internationalization. I think that, in my view, when I think about it, I think these dimensions are very, very important. I think, so I will go through each of them quickly in the time we have. I think, like I said, faculty characteristics, as I said to you, is that at Penn State, quality of teaching is evaluated, but quality of teaching pertaining to general education course is not. So they don't specify that which course it is and how that course met the general education objectives. So you generally evaluate the course. So I think in Penn State, some people are thinking, we will see how it goes, that when each course is evaluated, then I think we also need to track how that course met the learning objectives which it was supposed to meet, and the ways in which the student found it meaningful, did not find it meaningful. I think we need to get specific feedback from students how they feel some of these courses are not meaningful or are meaningful. So that part is very important. I do feel that I will give you my idea. Many times I teach a course, I will tell you, I really like feedback from my students to give me feedback on my course, because it is their feedback that helped me become a better teacher. I think sometimes I do a very bad job with the teaching, then they tell me why they hate me, and I think that's important. I think it's very difficult to accept criticism, but it is very good, right? And I think constructive criticism is such an important part of learning. So getting feedback from students. So I think one of the things is faculty should have teaching orientation, and they should have scholarship and research orientation, and that should be pertaining to general education. And I do feel, in terms of faculty, I think you have faculty, like I shared the idea with the research which Thanita did on meaningfulness, and then Ajahn Nelson was saying that why not you do something similar, like in different levels. Maybe it is because the first year students, like you were saying earlier, and maybe students in different levels may feel differently. Maybe students who are in third and fourth year may feel general education is very relevant. We don't know. So I think we should encourage more research into general education so that we know what can we do to make it more meaningful. I think one of the things which will ultimately help general education is when students find how general education benefits. So the students will become our advocates. We need advocates. We need friends. So if students start saying, this general education course changed my life, it helped me understand better, I think that's really the best thing we can get, because ultimately every university is putting more and more tuition hike, and ultimately students are the one who have the ultimate say. So I would say that that's a very important thing. So teaching, scholarship, and research orientation. The second thing I feel that when we teach and when we deal with the students, I think when we focus on students' attributes, I think when we teach the courses and when the students come, we should not only think about content like I did in earlier. We should think about skills. We should think about attitudes, values. So all those things are important part when we think about personal characteristics of students. And I think that's really important in terms of producing high quality general education, because then we know exactly, are we really creating well-rounded individuals or not? Are we really doing it? I think that's important. The third thing which I feel, dimension which is very important in general education, is values. I do feel, I think values are such an important aspect of learning. And I think, how do we create positive values? Positive values. I think that's a very big question, but very difficult one. And I think a lot of research recently, which in US and other places has shown that the learning environment you create for students send messages about the values students adopt. For example, if I create a classroom and I walk into my classroom and I say, okay, you got A, you got B, you got C, and all those kind of things, I'm creating an environment in which students engage in competition and they compare themselves with each other. They will not find that environment intrinsically motivated. That means they can learn to have meaning in life intrinsically. They will feel the purpose of learning is to look good. I will look better than her. She will look better than her. That will be the purpose. So that should not be the learning environment we create. We should create a learning environment in which we do not support competition and social comparison. We support intrinsic learning. I think learning environment is very important. I will tell you frankly, even with my PhD students here and in US, I spend a lot of time discussing, sharing, and talking about the value, why we do what we do. I think it's very important because people need to be intrinsically motivated. All right. Now, and there are differences between different disciplines, learning environment. For example, science and engineering are mostly fact-based learning, whereas humanities are much more individual learning, slightly different. So there are differences, but we should pay attention to the learning environment now. So because different disciplines have different learning environment, different pedagogical teaching, like in science department, in math department, in arts, the teaching style, what is good teaching, how do they assess learning, they are quite different. Now, so the bottom line is, what kind of learning environment we create to support mastery goals and deep learning. Now, here is some of the lessons we know. If you engage students in meaningful and challenging tasks, not just general education, you have to take this course, okay, memorize, give it back. No. If you engage students in meaningful is students see the connection between what they already know and what they are doing in your classroom. They find it meaningful. Then it will promote mastery learning. And remember, we talked about mastery learning is related to positive critical thinking dispositions. So the environment we create in the classroom where we give meaningful and challenging tasks will enhance mastery learning. If you create an environment where rote learning, like I will tell you frankly, sometimes I ask my students to tell me, can you tell me different kind of variables in statistics and like moderating, intervening, and different types of variables. So students just maybe go to the website, they just copy all those things, put one page, very nice, and they give the assignment. I said, no, I don't need that. I don't need to know that. what I want you to do is to think about it and tell me a story about different variables, how you think, why we need to be worried about it. So I think if you just ask them to give just an assignment or just to engage rote learning, it will mostly be enhance performance goals. And performance goals is social comparison. And performance goals are not linked with critical thinking dispositions. Mastery goals are. So if you want to start if you want to support mastery goals in the classrooms, we must make sure that what students are doing in the classroom is meaningful to them and it's connected with what they are doing. Another, we know from research and some of these things we have tested that if you give autonomy and responsibility, again support mastery goals. If you follow authoritarian and prescribed way, just follow it, do not go anywhere, that it also enhances performance goals. So what we want to do is discourage, when we teach, discourage those learning environments which results in performance goal and support those learning environments which encourage the adoption of mastery goals. Now, I'll say a very simple thing. It's a very simple thing. Like if I want to give student a grade, there is some research shown that I want to tell you, what did you get? Okay, you got A, you got B, you got C. It supports more performance goals. If I discuss with you assessment privately and share with your grade and give you feedback individually and privately, it supports mastery goals. Because now you know what you need to learn privately and you are not worried about looking stupid in front of others. So assessment, when it is public, it supports performance goals. Assessment, when it is private, when you have formative assessment, private, and formative constructive feedback, it supports mastery goals. And remember, mastery goals are linked again with many things like critical thinking disposition, value for learning. So a lot of positive things. So environments that reward cooperation, again, mastery goal. Environments that reward competition. I think competition environment is related to an anxiety, and an anxiety is related to performance goals. So if you want to learn English and you create a competitive environment, you will lose almost all the students in that English course. What you want to do is to create a very cooperative environment, because competitive environment, stress level high, and an anxiety is a negative classroom and anxiety. English language classroom and anxiety is a negative motivator, we know that. And so learning environment, very important. Okay. Now, if you make everything very rigid, schedule, requirements, everything very rigid, again performance goals. And we know that our mastery goals, flexible. So the bottom line is that these learning environment we create in the classroom is very important in terms of the adoption of goals for the students. Okay. So that is about learning environment. The next dimension number 4, I have talked about it, I think this is all about 3 R's, which is rigor is very important. And I've already discussed some of this. And what Penn State now, I think the type of curriculum, I personally feel that what we need in general education is a curriculum which is evidence-based curriculum, which is varied and which is deep. Now, evidence-based curriculum is that if you say students are developing good reasoning skills, how do you know? What is the evidence? what will count as evidence when you assess their learning. So when I design a course, I create a very large rubric. And I may not have time to show you my assessment, but some of the courses I've designed online, I create very extensive rubric. And in that rubric, I say what will count as evidence. So in general education, if we say we would like to support some kind of reasoning, evidence-based reasoning, then what will count evidence-based reasoning in my class and what will not count evidence-based reasoning in the class. So what you need is, in all curriculum, in all general education curriculum, maybe evidence-based curriculum. What will count evidence? Because if you have evidence, students know what will help them get grade. You know how you assess. You can also monitor what they are learning and what they are not learning. So otherwise, we have no knowledge. We are talking about critical thinking. It's a black box. Nobody knows what is critical thinking. Nobody knows how to assess it. And nobody knows whether it is working. So we don't need black box. We need clear guidelines. And those clear guidelines are evidence-based curriculum. So you know exactly what you are looking for. And when I teach my class, I tell my students the first time, this is what I'm looking for. This is how I will evaluate. This will count as high order thinking. This will count as reasoning. And if I get a chance, I will show you. I ask them to draw, for example, a reasoning map. I give them an example of reasoning map, how I will evaluate reasoning map. They look at it exactly, and then they know what they need to do. They know to get there, they cannot memorize. They have to think. They have to deliberate, and they have to come with some answer. Then I can grade them because I have told them how I will assess them. So evidence-based curriculum is very, very important, I think, in my view. What will count as evidence for the teacher, and students also can show their evidence, all right? And I also, in my classes, I keep a lot of sample projects for students to show them how each student has developed that skill, that behavior, or that disposition, okay? Varied curriculum, it should be varied, and it should be deep. I think these are the three things which are very important in terms of curriculum and learning experiences. I will not have time, otherwise I would have shown you maybe sometime I will show you my World Campus courses, which is I teach. Let me go to the next dimension. Okay, I think coming again to earlier to Ajahn Somjai was saying is that about the idea of faculty administration. I think one of the things is that at Penn State, now we are saying that a general education program faculty, rather than broadly represented ad hoc committee, should develop the next general education curriculum and submit for program approval to University Faculty Senate. Previously, at Penn State, you know what they used to do? They create a committee, ad hoc committee, and they say, okay, here is a committee, now science, math, English, and all these departments look at their courses, and they say, okay, this course will be general education. And after that whole curriculum review is finished, that committee is out, dissolved, all right? So it was kind of temporary thing, but now they are realizing that we will have a permanent general education program faculty, because we are realizing we must evaluate. It should not be ad hoc thing. So I think they are moving in the same direction. So you should have, and there should be a separate vice president and dean for. They also thinking about having. They were talking about here. They were saying that they will have a university associate dean for general education, and I think so they will have a leadership position. So we will probably get more into these issues, and they will also have a budgetary model to spend money on general education. So they will create a model for that. And also they were saying that university-wide general education faculty with the authority to act as a recognized academic program community. Faculty selected should have particular expertise in the theory and practice of general education programs and goals. So you will have people from different departments maybe who will hopefully have some idea about the idea of general education. So I think we are feeling it, and hopefully they will be our advocates. And I think the last one is important thing I feel is that in general education, one of the things I feel is very important is people in different countries are doing different things, but they don't know what each of us are doing. I think one of the good things is that when I come here, I learn more about you, how you are doing. I go back and I learn about my university, how my university is doing. Then I say, oh, they are doing differently. They have these issues. I go there, I think about those issues. I come back, I think so that kind of mobility, maybe it enriches my thinking because I think about issues you face, I think about issues we face. So I think that kind of internationalization and cooperation on general education reform, I think is very critical. Because the problem of general education, in my view, is not a national problem, it is an international problem. Most students in most countries do not find anything other than their major meaningful. It means we are not doing our job. So maybe we need to get back to work. All right. Thank you very much. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Ajahn Kaur, very much. And I wish we could have more time to learn more. Since the morning, we have learned many things about general education at Penn State University, and also the challenges, the problem, and also the suggestion and the high quality or the suggestion for the model, the good model for general education. So actually, I think maybe some of us may have more questions, but because we have limited of time, so the time is almost up. So now I would like to invite our director, Professor Somchai, to present the token of our appreciation for our keynote speaker.
Oh, I should go there.
From us, from Ravinder University.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
Thank you very much. And I would like everybody to give Ajahn Kaur a big hand again.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
And now we have reached the final session, so may I ask our director to give us the speech of the closing ceremony. Please welcome Associate Professor Somchai Siripok again.
Honorable the executives, distinguished participants and guests, ladies and gentlemen, we are now at the end of the conference. During this day, Associate Professor Dr. Ravinder Koul provided us a lot of good information about general education. On behalf of Srinagar University Innovative Learning Center and all of the participants, I would like to express my sincere thanks to our honorable speaker, Associate Professor Dr. Ravinder Koul, for your excellent presentation. We have learned a lot about the curriculum and research perspectives on general education for the 21st century, the roadmap of general education reform at the Penn State University, and the innovative instructional strategies for general education. It should be a great help to us particularly as we are undergoing to revise the general education program in Srinagar University. And I also hope that everyone, especially those from Thai Network, would take the experience from this conference to develop your work in the near future. Once again, we very much appreciate Professor Koul for your being able to join us today. It would be a privilege indeed if you could return to address us again sometime in the future.
Okay.
Last but not least, let me take this opportunity to sincerely thank all of the participants, all of the organizing staff, especially Dr. Chanat and Dr. Tanita. We have been arranged this conference since the beginning of the priming stage till now. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So now we have reached really the final stage, and on behalf of the organizer, I would like to thank you all participants again for your attention and your participation, and I wish you have a safe trip back to your place. And please give us the feedback by filling out the form, the comment form, the yellow paper in your folder. So last thing is, before you go back, I think it would be great if all of us, everybody, take picture together. So everybody is welcome onto the stage to take picture together. Please.